Welcome back to episode 2 of Midlife Max Life, where I share a little bit about the journey I've been on for the last 3 years and where I am now, and the journey it took to get here, which was pretty scary. I'm going to share that with you today. Imagine this 3 years ago. Da, da, da. Early May 2023, I find myself in a hospital bed. Not from a car accident, not from a broken bone, but from a nervous system shutdown, a complete and utter burnout, which saw me spend 4 days not being able to talk properly, not being able to recall information, not being able to comprehend things that people were saying to me, and not even able to share my thoughts and my words, which was really scary. You know, when you've got something to say and all of a sudden those words aren't coming out, you're having this internal dialogue. And for a brief moment, you wonder, are you absolutely crazy? Are you even trying to speak? Are you in a dream? You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem real that I want to talk and no words will come out. But that's what happened to me 3 years ago. And I want to take you back to the day before I entered in hospital. Maybe something like this might resonate with you. Maybe you've had some experience with some of these symptoms. And if so, I want you to take them seriously. I want you to take care of yourself so that you don't end up in a hospital bed for 4 days or even longer with something like what I had or even worse. So let's set the scene. Once upon a time. No, seriously. The day before my burnout, I'd had a huge day at work. I'd had a meeting in the morning. So, yes, I'm in education, but in a leadership role, we were often there. Well, I was there anytime from when the cleaners arrived in the morning to when the cleaners left at night. But that was my neurodivergent brain just working overtime all the time. So on this particular day, we had a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. It went until bell time. I did my usual work day. And then after work on this particular day, we had a full staff meeting. At this staff meeting, myself and the other leaders of learning and the DP were going to present some new information around the new curriculum that was going to be coming out the year after. So while I've been doing my full-time job, I'd also been attending seminars learning about the new curriculum that was going to be coming in. I'd also been attending multi-day workshops on the new way of teaching reading and the science around teaching reading. So I was already taking on extra workload on top of my new role, which was to create new units of work, new assessment tasks, new guides to making judgment, all on something that had never been implemented in our school before. So it was a really big job, and I don't think I knew, but I don't think anybody else really knew the extent of the job and the hours that I would have to put in learning about this information and then creating work that was going to be used by a whole cohort. So that's pressure. That in itself is pressure. So we'd had our full day of work, we'd had our meetings, I'd had my work, presented this after school meeting, and I remember getting home and I was just exhausted. I remember being so tired. And my husband, Jake, said that our youngest son was going to his friend's house and for me to come along for a ride. And I thought, yeah, that's probably a good idea. I just need to just relax for 5 minutes. And my kids are really affectionate with me. We always kiss and hug and say we love each other. So when we dropped Tom off and the door shut in the back, I looked over to my husband and I said to Jake, "Oh, that's strange. Tom didn't give me a kiss and a hug." And he kind of looked at me sideways and he said, "Yes, he did." And I said, No, he didn't give me a kiss and a hug." He said, "Yeah, he just did. He leaned over and did that." And for the life of me, I cannot to this day recall that happening. So I thought, oh, maybe he's joking. This is, I don't know, my husband, this is his sense of humor. He doesn't have any. So we get back home and he said to me, "Let's go for a walk." And I thought, yeah, that might help me. Maybe I'm hungry. Maybe I'm just, I don't know, I've been sitting for most of the day. Maybe a walk might do me good and some fresh air. We probably got to the end of our block and I just lost my balance. I really couldn't stand properly. I couldn't put one foot in front of the other. And I felt really, really dizzy and really confused. So Jake had to hold me up. And I said I want to keep walking because I just thought, no, this is fine. This is nothing. I just might be lightheaded for some reason. So let's just keep going. I can't walk properly. This man's holding me. I had to walk on the grass in case I fell onto the concrete or the road. And I'm like, no, let's just keep going. I'll be all right. Now we managed to get to the end of the road and I just couldn't do it anymore. So he brought me back, put me in bed, gave me some Panadol, and I thought a good night's sleep is going to fix everything. To which, quite honestly, I didn't know what a good night's sleep was, because that's just one of the warning signs of burnout and everything midlife. So when I woke the next morning, again, I had another meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I really just didn't have time to think about my health. And I do remember Jake asking me, "How are you feeling?" And I just brushed it off because I thought, I've got to get to work. The meeting's at 8 o'clock, but I've got to do work before I start the meeting, before I start my job. So I go to work, 8 o'clock rolls around, and I'm in a meeting with all the, I think they were year level coordinators and DPs and leaders of learning. And we had to go in pairs into classrooms before school and just make some observations. And I remember when I was in, I think I remember when I was in that classroom with my girlfriend, that I really was quite vague. I don't think I was really taking everything in. And when we got back and everybody sat down in the meeting, we had to share what we had seen. And I remember one of the DPs asked me to speak. And because I'm a little bit of a prankster, I started putting my hand to my ear and then down to my mouth, like, making the shape of a telephone from my ear down. And I just kept doing that. And my girlfriend thought I was being stupid and that I was playing a prank or something. But I couldn't talk. And I was making this gesture because I was trying to answer the question that I was being asked. But the words would not come down. And I was trying to pull the words down from my brain to my mouth, and nothing was happening. And I just froze, and panic instantly set in. And to make matters worse, the meeting just continued. Nobody really stopped and checked if I was okay or anything like that, like my girlfriend did. But the meeting just continued as if nothing had happened. And I should have known then that, wow, I'm so valued. Like, I am destroying my health for nobody. Nobody cares. Eventually, uh, my comprehension came back to me, and I was back in the office, and I told one of the girls what had happened, and she jokingly said, "Oh, you might have had like a mini stroke or something." And I thought, yeah, right. I doubt that. I don't have time for that. But the combination of that and then the night before when I was dizzy, I thought, oh, I never go to the doctor. I never go to the doctor. Well, I hadn't up until 3 years ago. Now I'm there all the time. I love the ladies there at Harmony Health. They're just gorgeous. But yeah, it's terrible. Like, I know them, all their first names, and I just, yeah, have a really close relationship with the receptionist at my GP. So I don't know if that's weird or not, but if you know me, I love to know everybody. Off track. See, that's what has happened to me. My memory goes and I get off track. So I just thought maybe I'll just ring the doctor and just check and say, this little thing happened and that little thing happened, and what do you think? Should I come in? And they're kind of like, yep, come in straight away. So I drove myself in, thinking that, yep, they're just going to say, yeah, you're stressed out, you're overworked. I don't know, have a sleep, take a day off. And when the doctor looked me over, she said, yeah, you need to get to the hospital right now, and you're not to drive. And if you can't get someone to drive you, then we need to get an ambulance. And oh gosh, I just felt so embarrassed because I'm thinking there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. I'm wasting people's time. I don't want to go to the hospital when there's real sick people. And I said, yes, yes, yes. And I really contemplated whether I was just going to drive myself or get my husband. And I thought, oh, if I black out or something happens, then I'm not insured and blah, blah, blah. So I rang him up and, can you come get me? Yeah, kind of got to go to the hospital. I kind of couldn't speak. And yeah. So he came. And lucky that he did drive me, because I had a few more episodes in the car where it's like I blanked out, or I knew words were being said to me, but they weren't making sense. I could hear noise, but I couldn't decipher what that noise was, whether they were words or, sounds outside. When I actually got to the hospital and my husband shared what had happened, and my doctor had sent an email or something, I'm not sure. I can't quite remember. There's so many details that are sketchy for me, so I just try and remember what I can. But I do remember just being whisked straight in. And I remember there were doctors everywhere around me, and there were pads and tubes and everything all over me. And I just kept hearing the word stroke, stroke, stroke pathway, stroke, stroke. And I couldn't talk. So I couldn't even ask any questions. And for a control freak to be lying on her back with all these doctors, and there was such a sense of urgency. When you get that panic, because if people were just really casual about it, they were just, walking around like, you'll be right, you'll be right. But it was like a mad rush in there. And I remember Jake's face and the panic on his face. And I remember his face, and he probably remembers my face. And I think in that moment, seeing him made me panic. Seeing the look on the doctor's face made me panic. When they're looking and they're raising their eyebrows, and I'm thinking, oh, this is not good. I am killing myself for a stupid job that doesn't care about me. And the whole time I'm there lying in the hospital, on on the bed with the doctors around me, I'm thinking, oh gosh, I hope I'll be right for work tomorrow. I hope I can get that unit done. I hope I make the meeting with the principal on Friday. Like the ridiculous things that were going through my brain. I could not talk. I couldn't comprehend. Some of the tests they do, they ask you to name animals. And they said, right, Philippa, name as many animals as you can. And I just remember saying, monkey, tiger, tomato, tomato. And I just remember tomato and monkey coming out over and over again and thinking, what the crap is going on? This is ridiculous. Like I know animals. I'm a teacher. I can name heaps of animals. Tomato is not an animal. But in that moment, like my brain, nothing could switch, nothing connected. It was just like all gobbledygook. So I didn't do too well at that test. Then they give you another test and they say, draw a circle on a page and write the numbers like an analog clock. Now, we all know what analog clocks are, don't we? We've got midlifers here. Yes, it's not the digital one. It's where it goes around the numbers and the hands move. That's it. So I said, oh, I'm a prep teacher. This can be easy. And I drew the circle and I'm like, da, 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 da. And I got to, there's a missing number. Or where does that number go? And I could not work out how to put the numbers on the clock face. And I'm looking and I'm what do you mean? What do I mean I cannot do this? And I couldn't comprehend why I couldn't do it. All I know is there was a number missing and I didn't know how to put it in. I didn't know where it lived. And I could not put the numbers on a clock, which I teach prep kids to do. So they sent me for all the tests, and the whole 4 days I was in there, I was on, well, they say a stroke pathway, until eventually they determined that I wasn't going to have a stroke, or they presumed I wasn't going to have a stroke. And then all of a sudden my stroke turned into, oh, you might have a headache. I said I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, I couldn't comprehend, and now you want to tell me I've got a headache. Well, they say a complex migraine. To which I said I've never had a migraine, and I've never known a migraine to just come on like that. I haven't heard stories of how migraines are, but I would imagine that my migraine would not last that long. And it wasn't like that feeling. It wasn't that type of sensation because my mum had migraines. So I knew about migraines. So next thing, they're dismissing me and telling me it's a migraine. And I just flat out said, no, no, it's not a migraine. Yes, it is. They kept saying, yes, it is. If you take these tablets, we'll be able to determine if it's a migraine or not. And I just refused. I said, I'm not taking those tablets because it's not a migraine. If it's anything, I kept saying, oh, my brain's broken, my brain's broken. And then I thought, oh, maybe I've had like a nervous breakdown. And when you think nervous breakdown, you think, oh, loopy, crazy lady's going to the loopy bin. So I just really thought, oh, this is it. I've had like a real mental breakdown. I'm going to have to end up in a ward or something. But I knew for sure I did not have a migraine. So after 4 days of being in hospital and 4 days of going from a stroke to a headache to a migraine, I was discharged and made to feel like I didn't know my own body, and I didn't have any awareness of what I was going through, and that they knew better. And when they're telling me migraine, and I'm thinking, not even the same symptoms, it really was not the same, but they couldn't put it down to anything else. And I asked them, I said, why are you writing that I have a migraine on the discharge papers? And their response was, when we don't know, we just put that, a complex migraine. I found out after that, because I'd had a few friends that had gone through similar experiences after me, that they too had been diagnosed with a complex migraine. They too had a twitch in their left eye that they haven't been able to get rid of. They also get stuck mid-sentence and can't remember where their conversation was going or what the conversation was even about. We've all got these migraines. And I went for testing afterwards. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Thousands. Not to mention, all the money I missed out on of wages to prove that I didn't have a migraine. And it wasn't until I found a phenomenal psychologist that she explained to me what a burnout was, because I had no idea. I just thought, I can't talk properly. I can't walk properly. And that was my life. And it was scary, and it was hard, and it was frustrating. It was really frustrating being so incapable of doing anything. Something that really upset me, maybe, was when I was in hospital. My principal at the time, she was good. She rang and checked on me. Other people were sending me messages asking me about where files were for meetings and what I was going to be talking about in meetings and where the data was for certain things. So here I was in hospital, suffering, memory loss, cognitive dysfunction from overworking. And instead of people giving me a break, I was emailed constantly. I was rung up. I was asked that many questions, and it was so, what's the word? So inconsiderate. Totally inconsiderate. And such a lack of compassion that all I was thought of was this worker. And when I couldn't do that job, well, give us the stuff so we can give it to someone else. We don't have time to see if you're okay. No wonder I didn't have time to check on myself and make sure I was okay, because I certainly wasn't getting that support from work, even though I expressed that on numerous occasions in emails, that I wasn't coping with the workload and that I have to step down from the job, and dismissed every time. And my thanks for that, my thanks for working hard and overworking, was my body shutting up shop. So, I don't really talk about these times at all. So when I'm saying it now, it's kind of like I'm reliving it, and I get quite emotional. I've got butterflies in my stomach, and I still feel a level of guilt. I should have not allowed that to happen, that it was very inconvenient for me to have that burnout when I did, because of the people at work were impacted, and they had to step up. I suppose, no, I don't suppose, I know, I really know that having this burnout, having this complex migraine, as we call it, was absolutely the best thing that ever happened to me. At the time, I thought it was the worst thing. Honestly, at the time, I thought, all right, I'll be back at work tomorrow. I'll just go to work. It's easier to go to work than try and work from home while you're unwell. So I'll just go to work. And in my mind, I was going back to work. And I can tell you right now, it's been 3 years and I can hardly drive past that school. It's plays havoc on my nervous system. I get sweats. I can't, I get palpitations. I really have I have a physical reaction to being at that school. But it's only a migraine, so I'll get over it. Even after everything that happened and the way that I was treated by some people, I still really missed the job. I missed the good people. I missed being part of a family. I missed the kids. Oh, the kids were my whole life. Ugh, they really were. I know that's terrible to say, but those kids at that school were my whole life. I just wanted to do such a good job for them. I did such a good job that my brain broke. Recovering from that after I went home, that was just the next journey really for me and the start of the next 3 years. So I'll talk about that next week if you join me. But I really had to change everything about myself. Otherwise, I was going to end up right back where I was, in hospital, if not here anymore. What I've got for you ladies, and I wish I'd had for myself, is a simple midlife audit overwhelm checklist. 9 simple questions. It's free for you when you sign up. It'll be downloaded to your email straight away. And it's just a check-in for you. Simple questions to just go, something to think about. Yeah, how do I react to that? What am I thinking in that situation? Because it starts us thinking about ourselves rather than spending all of our time thinking about everybody else. We have to invest this time to stop and listen. Listen to our body. Because when you end up in hospital and when you have a burnout, it's far worse. It's far worse than spending an hour a week on yourself or half an hour a day on yourself or whatever you can. You owe it to yourself. You need to love yourself and honor yourself. And trust me, I know. I lived for work and it nearly killed me. I don't ever want that to happen to any of you. And I don't want your families to go through it either, because it had a huge impact on my family. For them to see their mum, who was this woman who took care of everything. You know, there's no time for mum to fall off the perch. She does everything. Hurry up and get better, mum, so that you can get back to doing all those things that you were doing before. Working full-time, mother full-time, juggling 6 different balls in the air at the same time. So unrealistic. So yeah, join me next week where I share how I had to change as a person. Like, everything about myself needed to shift. And that was a journey because I've been doing it for nearly 50 years. So to become this person I am today, I have really worked hard. I've really, really worked hard. And I'm proud of myself. And I'm proud of myself that I have given myself the time to get well. And I'm grateful to my husband who has never put pressure on me. All he wants is for me to be better. So when you have that support, it's a wonderful thing. And I know not all women will have that. And I know women that have had to go back to work and they're going back broken still. We need to take care of ourselves. I'm here for you. I want you to have the most incredible rest of your day. And I want you to exhale with me. I love it. See you next time. Check out the link.